Good morning. The Committee on Homeland Security, Subcommittee on Oversight, Investigations, and Management will come to order. First order of business, I see we have three members that would like to attend and sit in on this hearing, Mr. Cuellar, Mr. Green, and Ms. Sheila Jackson-Lee. And I ask unanimous consent that they be allowed to sit on the dais for the hearing today. Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. I now recognize myself for an opening statement. The hearing today is titled, "The U.S. Homeland Security Role in the Mexican War Against the Drug Cartels." Over the past year, the increase in violence by the Mexican drug cartels has expanded to include more brutal forms of violence and deaths of civilians and political leaders. On March 13, 2010, cartel members killed 3 individuals, 2 of them U.S. citizens connected to the U.S. consulate in Juarez, Mexico. On June 28, 2010, Tamaulipas gubernatorial candidate was assassinated by a drug cartel. January through October 2010, 12 sitting mayors were assassinated. On February 15, 2011, Immigration and Customs Enforcement Special Agent Jaime Zapata was killed, and his fellow agent, Special Agent Victor Avila, was wounded by the drug cartel known as the Los Zetas. March 2011, a law enforcement bulletin warned that cartels were overheard plotting to kill ICE agents and Texas Rangers guarding the border using AK-47s by shooting at them from across the border. These are acts of terrorism as defined by federal law. The shooting of Special Agents Zapata and Avila is a game changer, which alters the landscape of the United States' involvement in Mexico's war against the drug cartels. For the first time in 25 years, the cartels are now targeting American law enforcement. I had the honor to sit down with Agent Avila and speak to him personally about the events that took place that tragic day. And he described the ambush to me as pure evil. Even at the Mexican hospital, he described the fear he had that they would come back to finish the job, as they so often do. The agents were forced off a highway in central Mexico in their vehicle bearing diplomatic license plates. Both agents pleaded for their lives in Spanish, identifying themselves as United States federal agents, as Americans, as diplomats. But the members of the Los Zetas cartel responded by firing more than 80 rounds from automatic weapons, killing Agent Zapata and wounding Agent Avila. I've been in contact with the Department of Justice after meeting with Agent Avila, who expressed his willingness to testify here today. However, the Department of Justice objected to that request, as he is a material witness in an ongoing criminal investigation and for his personal safety. Better judgment, in my view, is to not call him as a witness, but I do believe that his story needs to be told. Given this intensified violence, more than 35,000 killings in the past 5 years since President Calderon declared this war, an increase in spillover crime into the United States, I believe it is time the United States take decisive steps to end this war just south of our border. We are spending billions of dollars halfway across the world, and we talk about Libya in the press, and yet we have a threat just south of our border, right in our own backyard. We need to step up to the plate. President Calderon should be praised for his efforts to eradicate these cartels. When Congressman Henry Cuellar and I met with him in Mexico City in 2008, he told us that security was his highest priority. He boldly declared war against the narco-terrorists that were infiltrating his military and local police forces. In 2008, Congress passed the Merida Initiative, directing $1.3 billion in resources to help the Mexican government fight these cartels. Unfortunately, to date, only 1/4 of that amount, over 2 years since that bill passed, only 1/4 has been directed, and the violence in Mexico is only getting worse. And in my judgment, The Mexicans are losing this war, and so are we. The violence is no longer limited to the drug trade. Cartels are disrupting basic services and expanding their criminal enterprises. Mexico, in my judgment, is in danger of becoming a failed state controlled by criminals. If this happens, Mexico could become a safe haven for terrorists who we know are attempting to enter the United States through our porous border. In the interest of national security and in trade with our third largest partner and our rich cultural ties with Mexico, we cannot afford for this to happen. Failure is not an option. Our hearing today will do the following: review the accomplishments of the Mexican government's war against the drug cartels, examine the U.S. role in the war, determine the implications for Homeland Security, determine what future actions the United States needs to take assisting Mexico to win this war. In essence, I want to know from these witnesses here today, what is our plan? What is our strategy in dealing with Mexico? What is the plan to assist Mexico, our neighbor to the south, to help them win this important war? In my judgment, we should explore a joint military and intelligence operation with Mexico, similar to the 1999 plan in Colombia, which succeeded in undermining that country's cocaine trade, disrupting its cartels, and restoring its economic and national security. In addition, I've introduced legislation requiring the State Department to classify drug cartels as foreign terror organizations as a means to limit the group's financial, property, and travel interests. This designation would bring separate charges against anyone providing material support or resources to FTOs. It would provide an additional penalty of up to 15 years in prison and a fine. And it would authorize the deportation of any foreign member of a foreign terrorist organization from the United States, even if they're in this country legally. It would also require banks to freeze any funds tied to foreign terrorist organizations. Cartels kidnap, kill, and mutilate innocent civilians, elected officials, and law enforcement officers. They use gruesome tactics, and I've seen many of the videos and the pictures, and they are so gruesome and so violent and so graphic that we could not show those pictures at this committee hearing today. These tactics intimidate government officials and citizens. They torture, they use beheadings, they dismember and mutilate. And while not driven by religious ideology, Mexican drug cartels operate in the same manner as Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, or Hezbollah, each sharing a desire in using similar tactics to gain political and economic influence. These are acts of terrorism. Black's law defines terrorism as activity that appears to be intended to intimidate or coerce a civilian population, to influence the policy of a government by intimidation or coercion, and to affect the conduct of a government by assassination or kidnapping. In my judgment, the drug cartels fall squarely within this definition. President Clinton in the 1990s exercised this authority by declaring the FARC as a foreign terrorist organization. And according to the Congressional Research Service, the massacres of young people and migrants, the killing and disappearance of Mexican journalists, the use of torture, and the phenomena of car bombs have received wide media coverage and have led some analysts to question if the violence has been transformed into something new beyond the typical violence that has characterized the trade. And some observers have raised the concern that the Mexican drug trafficking organizations may be acting more like domestic terrorists. And we must also secure our borders. We must intensify southbound inspections to seize weapons and cash that arm and fund drug trafficking organizations. The United States estimates that somewhere between $25 to $30 billion a year in cash goes southbound into Mexico, which funds the cartels. We should seize this money and the guns going south and then use it against the cartels to pay for our border security operations. You know, I visited our troops in Iraq, in Afghanistan, I've been to Pakistan, and I'll tell you, the last time I went to El Paso, to the Epic Center, and requested to go across the border to Juarez, where 6,000 people have been brutally killed, I was told that, Congressman, we cannot guarantee your safety. It's time for the United States to show a serious commitment to this war that's right in our backyard and on our doorstep. And before I yield back my time, I would like for all of us today here to remember Special Agent Jaime Zapata. Our sympathies go out to his family and his friends, and I also want to recognize the heroic efforts of Special Agent Victor Avila, who was wounded. And so on behalf of this committee, I want to thank all the brave men and women who put themselves in harm's way every day for this country, both overseas and abroad, at home and in Mexico. And with that,